Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a day in the life of a home health visit nurse. So I did a video a few days back showing you guys my work routine as a home health shift nurse. So today's video is going to be my work routine as a home health visit nurse. I'm going to be telling you guys everything you need to know about being a home health visit nurse. I'm going to be telling you details, step by step, what we do, how we do it, and all of that. Right now, I'm getting ready to go for a few visits, and that's why I thought it was appropriate to do this video. So I'm going to be taking you guys along with me so I can show you guys and talk to you guys a little bit more about what I do. So if you're interested in knowing everything about what a home health visit nurse does, then come with me. So guys, I did a video a few days back showing you guys my work routine basically as a home health nurse, and a lot of you guys had questions and you wanted to know specifically what does a home health nurse do. So that is why I'm making this video. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Mercy. I'm a BSN RN. I've worked in the hospital and I've worked home health. I have at least 6 years of experience as a nurse. I have 6 years of experience as a home health nurse, and then I want to say about 3 years of experience as a hospital nurse. So when I became an LPN, I always worked in home health. When I became an RN, I worked in the hospital and I worked in home health. So I've never really stopped working in home health because I love it a lot. And a lot of people want to go into nursing, but they don't know if there are other options out there for nurses. Maybe you went to the hospital and didn't like it. Maybe you don't like bedside nursing or the traditional form of nursing. Home health is a great alternative. So that's why I'm going to be talking to you guys about it today. Basically, by the time you're done with this video, you should be ready to be a home health nurse if that's the path you want to take. So guys, I've already gotten dressed, but I wanted to show you guys my uniform because I know a lot of you guys are gonna ask. This is a gray and pink Grey's Anatomy set. I got this set also from my local uniform store. I think I paid around $80 for this set. It's very comfortable and it's very stretchy as well. It's kind of like a silk material. I don't know how to describe this material. It has like 2 shades of gray, so like a lighter shade here and a darker shade here. The darker shade of gray on the arm matches the pants, and then the lighter shade is just on its own, and then it has this pink right here. I really like this set because this is actually the uniform I am wearing on all of my profile pictures on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So this is the set I'm wearing. At the time when I took those pictures, I was about 5 months pregnant, and for some reason they fit me. So this is basically what it looks like. I'm wearing my house slippers because I usually wear my shoes last. The shoes I normally wear when I work at the hospital, I don't bring in the house, but my home health shoes I do bring in the house just because you're not really stepping in anything dirty and you're going to people's homes. So I do bring it in the house, but I don't walk around in the house with it. I leave it at the door or put it in the little closet. So I'm ready. I have my stethoscope, I have my badge, and then all I have to do is grab the rest of my stuff, put my shoes on, and get out of here. So guys, here's my stuff here. I've already showed you guys everything that's in this bag. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to go ahead and link it in the description, or I'll put a link in the card so you can watch it. It is a detailed video about everything I have in my home health bag. So now all I have to do is grab my bag, grab my keys, I have something to drink, and then I have my watch, I have my stethoscope, and that's all I really need. So guys, you already know I'm gonna stop and get some coffee. I actually worked last night. Today is Saturday. I worked Friday night, which was last night. I only do 8-hour shifts, so I got off work at about 8. I was home by 8:20. My patient only lives about 10 minutes away from me, so I was home by 8:20 and took a shower, ate breakfast, went to sleep, and it is about 2 and I'm gonna go do these few visits. So I kind of need some coffee to get me going.
Perfect. This is Robin. How are you doing today? Oh, okay. So no ice, but then ice on the side?
Yes.
Wonderful. What else for you?
That'll be it.
Perfect. $2.75. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys probably already guessed what I was going to get because I always get the same thing, iced coffee, and I get the sugar and the cream on the side just because sometimes they overdo it and I don't want it to be too sweet.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. Let me get your change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is how I get it initially. Sometimes if I'm feeling lazy, I'll have them mix it for me, but this is how I get it initially, and then I go ahead and mix it myself because I want to be able to control how much sugar and cream I have in my coffee. Okay guys, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start here. I'm on my way to my first patient's house, so I'm going to do this whole thing in between visits. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know. So first and foremost, let me clarify something that confuses a lot of people. A lot of people think that only LPNs do home health nursing because they're not allowed to work in the hospital. First of all, that is not true. Some LPNs work in the hospital. Secondly, anybody can work in home health. I started my home health career when I was a home health aide. When I became a state tested nurse assistant, I then started to work as a home health aide while I was in nursing school. So that's how I started. When I did that, I realized that I really liked it. So I continued to do home health once I became an LPN. So an LPN can do home health, an RN can do home health, a BSN RN can do home health, or RN BSN, which is what I am. I've seen some nurse practitioners do home health. So this is not specific for just one group of people. Just because you see a nurse who is a home health nurse doesn't necessarily mean that they're not allowed to work in the hospital. I've heard a lot of people say that the nurses who work in home health are hospital rejects. Again, that's another lie. It's very rude. I don't know why people say that. As I said, I've been a nurse for about 6 years now, and I've worked both hospitals and home health. And if I could be honest, to be very, very honest, I like home health better. Just because, first of all, you have so much more autonomy. Secondly, you have so much more control of your schedule. Thirdly, it is a one-on-one environment where you're taking care of patients one-on-one. You know everything about the patient. You understand what's going on, and you're able to think better and just do things better. Not saying that the hospital is not that way, but I've worked on units where you have 4 or 5 patients at a time, and it gets so busy and so crazy to the point where sometimes you don't even know a lot about your patients. So if something happens, you have to run to the computer, read about the patients real quick, and try to remember, because you have so many patients, and if something happens real quick, you have to be able to think on your feet, and sometimes you get your patients mixed up. So that is one of the reasons why I like home health, because it's more of a one-on-one situation. I'm gonna say home health and home care interchangeably. It means the same thing. There's no difference. It's the same thing, but some people call it home care, some people call it home health, but it's the exact same thing. So another thing I want to say about home health nursing before we get into everything is that when you do home health nursing, you have to make sure you are practicing within your scope of practice, meaning that you're doing things that you're only supposed to do with your title. So if you're LPN, you're not supposed to be doing things that RNs are supposed to be doing. If you're RN, don't try to act like you're a doctor and make orders on your own. Make sure you know what your state's scope of practice is, and make sure you are following that scope of practice. Also with home health, you are going to meet a lot of different patients of different color, patients of different ethnicity, religion, culture, nationality, and all of that. One thing that confuses people is culture. Just because you have a patient who's African and you have another patient who's African doesn't mean they have the same culture. Culture is the way people live and what they choose to believe in. So let's say I'm African and I have a culture where when people come into my house, I expect them to do certain things. Don't automatically assume that the next African person is going to have that same culture. People within the same country can have different cultures. People from within the same city can have different cultures. So you have to learn specific things for those patients. You have to be able to respect people's cultures. You have to be able to respect people's religion. You have to know that there are a diverse amount of people that you're going to be taking care of. It's the same in the hospital, but I see that more in home health, just because you go around to people's homes and there are different things that goes on in different homes versus at the hospital where there's usually one way of doing things. So the difference with home care visits versus shift is that with shifts, it's kind of like the hospital. You get paid for however many hours you're there. But with home health visits, you get paid by the hour, and you get paid a lot more for each visit. Some companies offer mileage. Some companies would offer paying for your gas, and then they'll also pay you per hour. So you can make a lot more as a home health visit nurse. So for example, if you work at a hospital where you get $24 an hour, or if you're doing a home health shift where you're getting $24 an hour, when you do your home health visits, you can get anywhere from $30 to $35 an hour. That's just an example. You get a lot more for those visits than you would doing a shift. So when I tell you guys that I've been working home health and hospital, I don't mean that I've been working every single day of my life and working 2 jobs and just doing too much. Usually at the hospital, you only work 3 12-hour shifts. At this time, I didn't have a baby. I used to do 3 12s and then I had 4 days off. So within those 4 days, I wanted to make some extra cash, and I already had a background in home health, so I decided to keep a lot of my home health positions. So I would take a day or two and do a whole bunch of visits just to make some extra cash, and then I'll have the rest of my days off. So some great things about home health that I want to mention is that it is very flexible. I've said this a lot of times. So for example, if the company calls you and says, hey Mercy, we have 4 or 5 patients that need to be seen, it's up to you to do however many you want. You can do as many as your schedule would permit. And another good thing is that you get to wear any color scrubs you want. So as long as your company agrees with it, you can wear any color, any combination, as long as you look nice and neat. You can also run a lot of your errands while you're doing your visit. So let's say you have to see a patient at 10 o'clock. On your way to that patient, you can stop at the grocery store, get some stuff for your house, and then go see that patient. There's a lot of flexibility in between your visits, so you can choose what you want to do as long as you're keeping your time and your commitments with your patients. So let's say you sign up with an agency and you are assigned to a few patients. Make sure you get the 485. The 485 is a packet that tells you basically everything you need to know in order to take care of this patient. So it tells you the patient's disease process, it has the patient's address, phone numbers, doctor's numbers, what kind of medications they're taking, how many times you're supposed to see the patient. It tells you everything on that paper. So let's say you have this 485 for 4, 5, 6 patients. The most important thing is to schedule your visits before the day you do your visit. Don't just show up to a patient's house and say, hey, my name is blah, 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 and I'm here to do a nursing visit. That is so unprofessional. I've seen people do that, and I've heard of people doing that. The best way to do it and the required way to do it is to call your patient a few days before, schedule your visits with them, make sure you and them agree with the time and the date before you show up. And even as that, the day of your visit, you want to call your patient ahead of time and say, hey, Mr. John, my name is Mercy. I spoke to you a few days back. I'm supposed to come and do a visit with you today. Is it still okay to come and see you at 4, 5, 6, 7? You never know. That person is human too. And as you know, things change. Appointment change. People change their mind. So maybe that patient forgot and set up another appointment. You have to call them to make sure that they are available and willing to see you. Once that is done, then you can go ahead and see your patients. I'm just driving a little bit towards my client's house because it's almost time to go. But anyways, so once you and that patient establish a time and schedule, then you don't always have to call them a day before, but always call them before you go and see them. So with home care nursing, there is a range of people that you can see as a home health nurse. Anything from pediatric to geriatric and anything in between. There's a lot of things also that you do as a home health nurse. So I'm going to try my best to list a lot of those things for you guys. Okay guys, so I just did one patient. That was a quick visit. I didn't have to do much. It was more of a wellness check where you go and see if the patient is doing well, and also kind of like a supervisory visit where this patient has a LPN that sees her regularly, and then you have a RN that goes in and asks the patient a few questions like, are you happy with your services? Is the nurse showing up on time? Is she doing what she's supposed to do? So you just ask those little questions and see what the patient says. You write it down, have them sign. You also have to do vitals, and you also have to assess the patient, but that's basically what this visit was about. So it wasn't that complicated. My next visit is actually going to be a wound care, and I'm just going to be doing a wet to dry dressing. Always wash your hands when you go into a patient's home. Always wash your hands when you leave, and then always have some kind of hand sanitizer that you can sanitize your hands with once you get back in your car. It doesn't matter what kind it is as long as it's a hand sanitizer. I usually have these small ones laying everywhere just because I like to use them. So what kind of things can a home health nurse do? A home health nurse can do a lot of things. They can do almost the same things as a nurse in a hospital, almost. So I have a list of things here just in case I don't remember all of them offhand. So number 1 is vitals. You have to do vitals for everyone. Regardless of what kind of care that patient needs, you have to do vitals for each and every one of your patients. And you also have to do a full head to toe assessment for all of your patients. So as a home health nurse, you have to do vitals. And then depending on what your patient needs, this is where the difference comes in. All the patients don't require the same things. They all need different things. So you can take care of a patient that has a Foley catheter. You can insert a Foley catheter. You can insert a straight catheter. You can do bowel preps. You can do suctioning. You can administer medications like oral medications, pill forms, a capsule or liquid or ointments. You can take care of a patient that has a G tube. You can take care of a patient that has an NG tube, a PEG tube, or any kind of tube. And then you can do some injections like vaccinations, insulin administrations, IQ checks. You can do blood draws. You can give blood. You can do wound dressing. I'm in one of my patients' neighborhood. My next patient is not home just yet, so that's why I have a little bit of break, and that's why I decided to go over this stuff with you guys. So moving on, so you can do medication administration, you can do education, you can do one-on-one patient care like a private duty nursing, you can do IVs, you can supervise other nurses if you're RN. I mean, the list goes on. A lot of people think that working in home health, you don't get a lot of experience, but you do a lot. Everything on this list I've done as a home health nurse. Your company teaches you what to do. They usually train you. So if it's your first time doing a certain skill and you're not comfortable doing it, make sure they train you. Make sure you tell them you're not comfortable doing it and have them either show you a video of it or have a nurse train you. Don't do anything you're not comfortable doing just because they called you and asked you to do it. So some other important things you need to know about being a home health nurse is that you need to have all your equipment. As I said before, a lot of patients have everything they need for vital signs, but some patients just came out of the hospital. This is their first time in home health, and they just maybe got diagnosed with a certain disease process like diabetes or hypertension, and you need to go and see this patient regularly. What you need to do is make sure you have all your equipment so that when you go in, you're able to do everything you need to do in order to provide good care for this patient. So have something called a nursing bag where you have everything in. I showed you guys my bag before. Have your badge, have your stethoscope, have your phone. Always have your phone, because to be honest, doing home health requires a little bit of bravery because you're going into different homes and different environments. So anything can happen. And I don't say that to scare you guys. I just say it to educate you so that you can be on your guard. So let's say you go into a bad neighborhood and something starts to pop off. You need your phone to be able to call either 911 or call the company and tell them, hey, there's something going on at this patient's house and I don't feel comfortable going in there. It's better to do it that way than to just not show up to that patient's house, because when you schedule to see a patient, you are kind of required to go and see them unless something comes up, and then you can document it appropriately. So if you've come this far in the video and you like what you see or hear so far, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss videos like these. And yeah, another important thing you need to know as a home health nurse is that you need to be able to use the nursing process for every patient. I don't care if the patient has the simplest thing or the most complex care, use the nursing process. So start with assessment and work your way down. So if you show up to a patient's house and the patient is supposed to be perfectly fine and perfectly stable, and all of a sudden something happens, or the patient's blood pressure is skyrocketing or their blood sugar is too high, you need to be able to critically think and say, what is my next step? What should I do? Who should I call? So just things like that. I don't know if I told you guys this before, but as a home care nurse, there is different forms of nursing you can do. So you can do the shift work where you go and stay at a patient's house for a certain amount of hours, or you can do visits where you go and spend 1 hour at a time. So as a visit nurse, there's also a difference. Let's say you're an RN, for example. You can either do physical care where you're providing hands-on care, like doing dressing changes and giving insulin and stuff like that, or you can either be an admission nurse, a discharge nurse, recertification nurse, or a I think that's it. So as a recertification nurse, I think I'll do a separate video on this because there's a lot that goes into that. You can go and recertify a patient to keep getting nursing care. You can go and admit a patient to start to get nursing care, or you can discharge a patient. Usually only RNs do this. I could be wrong, but for all the companies that I've worked for, only RNs do this. So the LPNs usually just do hands-on care. Okay guys, I just finished my 3rd patient. I have 1 more to go and I'll be done for the day. So the last thing I want to tell you guys is, a lot of people complain that in home care there's a lot of paperwork, but the truth is it's not any different from the hospital. At the hospital, you have to chart on every patient every hour. It's the same thing here. There's a saying in nursing that if it wasn't charted, it wasn't done. That's why home care has a lot of paperwork, because you have to chart everything you did. So if you saw the patient, what the blood pressure was, what the patient said to you, what you said to them. If the patient said they were having this complication, how did you educate them? What educational tool that you use? So it's not really crazy paperwork like people try to make it seem. It's just something that you have to do anyways, regardless if you were in the hospital or doing home health. The other thing I want to say about that is, because home health is so flexible, when you go and see your patients, you have the option to chart later. So a lot of people tend to save their paperwork till last minute. That's when the paperwork starts to pile up. You have to do it in a smart way so that when you're at work, you do your work, and when you go home, you're not sitting there and doing paperwork for hours and hours and hours. I'm guilty of this. I've done this a lot of times where I'll go to the patient's house, I'll only record the vitals, and then I'll write everything down on my notepad and then try to remember to chart it later. By the end of the week, I have like 10, 20, 30 paperwork that I haven't done. So now I have to go sit down somewhere and do it. So I used to go to either the library or go to a coffee shop and just sit there for sometimes hours trying to chart everything and trying to remember things. The best way to do it is to do it then and there. Even if you don't want to do it right in the patient's house, fill out as much as you can in the patient's house, and then when you leave the house, in between your visits, you can go ahead and do your charting. That way, when you go home, you are free, you don't have anything else to do, you're done, you can turn in your paperwork and then wait for your pay. So I think I've touched on everything. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but if I am, I'll try to make another video. So if you guys have any questions, or if you guys want me to do another day in the life video like this, try to leave them down in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any specific questions, or if you have any video requests, leave them down below. I answer all my comments. I love to interact with you guys. So I'm basically done for the day. I'm headed home to see my baby and get some rest. So that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.